Okay, we are now recording. It's gonna take me a minute because this is a new phone. So, yeah. Learning where everything's at and how everything works and all of that, and like where the camera's at and like okay. So, I just got done. I watched a video. Okay. Brain working faster than my mouth, like always. So, I just got done posting on my Facebook page about a friend of mine and um, Chris Anderson. And I just barely posted on there about checking out his page because I watched one of his videos and it really, hit and reminded, you know, how I need to bring up a few things in my story as well because I have not gone deep in my story. I have not really like even touched a lot of things, and I really, really, really want to. And so, um, not because I need to prove anything, but because of the fact that there's a lot in my story that will help other people. So, I swear I want more time to be able to do all of this, but here we are. So, now, in his, one of the things that jumped out at me was like how he said AA didn't work for him. And, okay, I feel like for a lot of people, AA isn't working anymore because of a few things. Now, I cannot speak for everybody. I can't. I can't speak for the collective on like why certain people just when you're going through addictions. And let me explain to you that I chose AA because the fact that alcohol kind of has always been my first and wasn't really my last, but it's one that is more widely acceptable. Okay. I struggle with every single, and I don't even want to say struggle. Like, I hate using that word because I don't struggle anymore. I don't have a problem with it anymore. I don't feel the need at all whatsoever for any of it. There's a few that I still have, like, catches on here and there, but it's not the alcohol or the drugs. I have worked through, I believe, every single addiction. And you have to realize that some addictions are more acceptable than other addictions. So, um, I will make a whole other video on my addictions and stuff like that. But this one is like mostly about why AA didn't work for me. But I started with alcohol. That's what I was given at a young age. My mother was an alcoholic. Um, so alcohol was not a problem at our home. But it's one of those things that alcohol, um, I've done pretty much every single drug except for crack. That's the only one, and it's not because I think I'm better than that. It's just it wasn't ever offered to me, so I never had the opportunity to try it. So never got the chance. But I have done every single drug: meth, heroin, ecstasy. Huge stoner in high school. Um, Huge raver in high school. Did popping ecstasy pills and everything. Um, you name it. Weed. I already said weed, but mushrooms. Um, I've done acid. I've done it all. Um, and those are the ones that are the illegal ones. The ones that aren't illegal, that are more acceptable. Alcohol is a little bit more acceptable, but still, it's kind of like a gray line in some areas. Um, and then we get into the other ones that don't really ever get brought up too much. I mean, they still get brought up, but they're not as deeply talked about, let's put it that way. Sex addiction. I struggled with that one for a very long time. Um, there's also um, the other ones that don't really get, like, there's gambling addictions, there's shopping addictions, there's food addictions, there's television, electronic addictions, there's addiction to media, like just scrolling, TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever it may be. There's addiction, avoidance, big one. I used to, as a child, reading was an addiction, to where, like, I would use reading to escape. Anything can be an addiction if you choose to use it as a means of coping with your feelings and escaping your reality. That's all an addiction is. But like I said, I'm gonna go do a whole other video on addictions. Maybe not now, but yeah, I will. But so I first got introduced to AA. My very first experience was so it was back whenever my mom went to AA. I never went to any of the meetings, but my mom went to AA, and she tried to get over her addiction, and then she stopped going. And so that was my first experience of even knowing what AA was. And then after that, another experience was back whenever my ex-husband and I were alcoholics. And I mean, we were alcoholics. We were day drinkers, like, to the point of where, like, I had a water bottle and I had a water bottle of vodka. Both of them. Okay? They both were, I took a shot of the vodka and then I took a drink of water. That's how bad it was for me. And so with that, my ex-husband has always been an alcoholic. I've never seen him not drinking. Like, he went 9 months and then something bad happened and he went right back to drinking. So he does not believe he has a problem, even though he is a day drinker. He's a very high-functioning alcoholic. Not exactly great functioning, but high-functioning as it is. So, with that, there was one point when we were trying to quit, and we went to AA, and we walked in the doors, and we went to a meeting. We got a 24-hour chip, and we were like, nope, never coming back here again. AA's for quitters, and we left. And there's such a funny story to that, because the first place that we went to is one of the places that completely changed my view on God. That's where I had my God aha moment. It was pretty insane. Okay, I'll tell that story here in a minute. So if I speak out loud, I'm speaking to spirit, and I'm speaking to my guides. They're just nudging me, and so I get the voices and tell me and all that. Okay, so let me explain first why AA didn't work for me and my experience with AA. Okay, so I'm being told that I need to, like, go on that tangent. Okay, thank you. So why that place that I went to, I eventually found out more about AA later on whenever I was in treatment, when I was in rehab. So I went to the first treatment center, and the first treatment center, they had us going to AA meetings, but they weren't exactly AA meetings. They were Buddhist recovery. Like, it's a different kind of, like, it's an AA, but it's not an AA, more or less. So you could go to, because this was in treatment, facility where you live there for a certain amount of time, like a couple months, and then it's like you have to leave. You have to go to a different place, like either outpatient or intensive outpatient or whatever it may be, depending on where you are. Because I've done all of them, but this one was one where it was Wasatch Recovery. It's a bougie one. Just saying, it's a bougie one. I went to that, and that's where I first kind of got in touch with AA. Then, shortly after I got out, when I was still waiting to get into another treatment center, my intensive outpatient treatment center, I had, they threw me out and they said, good luck. I did not know what to do. I was unsure. I was living in a trap house, and yes, when I say trap house, it was a house where my younger brother lived. Let me just go ahead and say, long story short, it's a house that was owned by my grandparents that was supposed to be left for me, but my parents and my uncle intervened, and they changed the will and everything like that to where I did not inherit it, and instead they had my younger brother, who is a drug addict as well, and he was living in the house rent-free. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't do anything. My mother pays for everything, my father, and then pay for everything, his food, whatever, and cable, whatever, all of it. And the house was meant to be for me and the kids, but because I would not take it from them because of the fact that I knew what they were trying to do, because my mom and dad would put in cameras and all of this other stuff and try and watch every move that I make, and they were trying to, control my life, I wasn't going to accept it. And so they took it out of my name, redid the will, and my younger brother was living there. I didn't know about this completely just yet, at that time, because I was still coming out of my coma, more or less. My drug-induced coma of trying to sedate myself from having to recall childhood memories of being a sex slave for my father, and, all of that. But, I digress. I'm just kidding. No, so, because of the fact that, I was living in this house, and everybody there was doing drugs constantly. My brother was a avid pot smoker, and I was, I was fresh out of treatment, and I was trying really hard not to relapse, because in my mind, if I relapse, I'm not getting my kids back, because there was a DCFS case and everything involved with my kids in the situation, and I'll have to tell that story, how I got to that point eventually. But with that whole thing, I went to AA because that's all I could do. Is there was nothing else I could do. I needed to go to AA, and I was already relapsing in a different way. I was relapsing I was sleeping with someone, that I was having sex with this person, and it wasn't a good relationship because of the fact that, I hate airing this stuff out, because I'm like, oh my god, what are people gonna think? And it's like, fuck it, who cares? He was a married man, and the marriage wasn't going well. It was actually very bad, very toxic marriage, but he was still married nonetheless. I was still relapsing in other ways. Not by doing drugs, because, I couldn't, because I was on Vivitrol, which is a shot so that you can't really get high off of drinking and heroin and all of that. So, but I was still doing stupid stuff. But I went to AA went in there and I found the location of the one that I went to back with my ex-husband. And it was in that moment that I had reached 3 months clean from drinking and all the other drugs. At this point, I wasn't seeing other addictions as relapsing, but so I went into AA, and I was picking up my 3-month chip, and they asked me, "How are you doing it? Like, what's your secret?" And I'm like, I laugh at this. Okay, so I got up there and I'm standing in front of all of these fucking people. It's a big one. And I'm like, I don't know how the fuck I'm doing it. I am white knuckling it. I have no clue what I'm doing. I just got out of treatment. I just got, I'm right now living in a place that I shouldn't even be living in. And I am on my own and I don't know what the hell to do. So right now, I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm just winging it. And I was so angry. And I sat down. And it was so funny because, like, the people that were looking at me, I was just like, what? I told the truth, okay? Like, I'm not making it. I'm going insane, okay? Like, I can't pretend for you people. I can't. And so there's this one guy, hold on, I gotta find his name, because it's like, he's a very well-known AA speaker. Dr. Bob. Nope, that's not him. Not Dr. Bob. Let me find it. I don't remember his full, like... Okay, he's a big speaker, and it's Bob D. Let me find it. Bob D. No. Okay. Maybe it's Bob D. I can't remember, and I'm not going to spend my whole entire time on here looking for it. So, yeah. So, Bob gets up, and he's this well-known speaker. I didn't know who he was. I had no idea. Bob gets up there, and he speaks on how treatment centers are and all of that stuff. Because this is my first treatment center. I had no clue. I am like brand new, fresh, spanking to the world. Have no clue. And I finally get some enlightenment on how treatment centers work. Not all of them, but I'm learning. And so, he gets up there and he speaks about it. And his fiance at the time, they're now married, Marnie, gets up there. And she's speaking directly to me. I know she's speaking directly to me because she's looking at me and she understands. She's saying things that she knew what I was talking about. She understood me in a level that I didn't know anybody could actually understand what I was going through. And it was stuff that I wasn't even ready to own yet. stuff that I hadn't even uncovered yet. But she knew. And she spoke to me. And then later that evening, she invited me to this event that Bob was going to speak at. And he was speaking at another event. He's a big AA speaker, really well known for his time in AA. And I love the fact that they have those people. And I've been to plenty of meetings, and I support that. I believe that, you know, if it works for somebody, great. I'm glad that they have something that works for them. But she invited me to this thing, and I'm like, I don't even know who you are. How do I know I am not going to get picked up and I'm going to be taken off into the backwoods and like raped and killed? And like, I'm seriously like thinking these things and asking these things. And she laughed about it, and she was like, I totally understand if you don't want to. And I was just like, the guy that the man that I was sleeping with, I told him about the situation, and he told me, what's the worst that could happen, you know? Go for it. Try it out. See what happens, you know? And it was the best thing that I could have done, because it was an AA meeting out in Utah. There's this area where they have a camping area for an AA group during the summer. And it's like this big camp out thing that they do, and I can't remember the name of it. But I got to go to this as like a special guest to these people. And I had no clue. I'm just being like brought into this, and I'm like, I don't really even know much about AA. Like, what are you talking about? And so I got brought in, and I go to this event, and it's a bonfire, and they're talking about all these things, and it's like, holy shit, that sounds like me. That I get that, I understand that. There was a lot of stuff that I agree with and I support wholeheartedly with AA. And it was one of those things that she then hooked me up with a sponsor, someone that could be my sponsor in AA, and to kind of like, you know, move forward. So I tried that. I had a sponsor, but I was still at that point where I didn't feel like I could be saved. So I did a lot of self-sabotaging and didn't go to meetings, and kind of like, they scared me, to be honest with you. What scared me the most was when I got out of treatment. I was like, how are all these people having so much fun and enjoying life without doing drugs or alcohol? Like, how are these people okay? You know, it scared me. It scared the crap out of me. I was like, what is fucking wrong with these people? I really did. I thought those things. And so with that, I kind of did my thing. I backed away. I, you know, found other things to do. Like, I eventually just kind of didn't go anymore. And I just kind of fell off. And then there came a point when I had to go to another treatment center, and I needed to get back into AA because they required that you were a part of some kind of like online or AA or whatever it may be. Like, you had to be in some kind of community outside of that place. And so I was like, well, I gotta go back. So I did. I went back. I went back to the same place, and I met some beautiful people there. There were some girls that I met that we were all like friends. We were good friends. And I don't want to say good friends, like we were just friends, and it was nice, but it's still like I still hadn't reached what was wrong with me. Like, why I was continuously, like, why did I keep wanting to drink? Why was I white knuckling it? Why was I still struggling to not do it? I wasn't doing it. Like, I was choosing not to, because in my mind, if I drank, I would lose my kids. So I fought it. If I did any kind of drugs, I would lose my kids. So I fought that. Still in and out of relationships, still trying to, still trying to figure out what my pattern was in a way. But I went back to AA, and in AA, in that one, it was kind of the old school AA. I tried out different, I tried a couple of different AA, like, there's Narcotics Anonymous, which is a good one. Like, those people be rowdy. Cocaine Anonymous, CA groups are rowdy. Those people be crazy, but they're funny and they're fun. But the problem was that I was trying to stick with this old school AA group, and they were very stuck in their ways, and so I didn't like it there. At one point, I tried to get involved, and this is where I kind of started seeing things differently. So I tried to get involved in the community and the activities, and how I was open about the fact that I drank alcohol and did drugs. I was open about it. Some AA groups don't want you talking about that stuff. They want it strictly AA and keep it at that. So they wanted seclusion. They wanted to have just old school traditions of AA. And I remember when I was talking about it, and I was like, I feel very comfortable to be able to speak openly, because they're wanting to know how to get more people in. They're wanting to know how to appeal to the younger generations. And I was like, well, you have to realize that I felt comfortable being able to speak about my experiences in both. I felt safe enough to do that. And I can't remember the exact way that it was said. I don't remember the exact words that were said either. But one of the older members, he made a very snappy and harsh and hurtful comment to me in this meeting. And he was like, well, this is AA, and we are only supposed to be talking about alcohol. And, if like you want to go somewhere else and you want to go talk about that stuff, then that's perfectly fine. Then you should be somewhere else. More or less, you're not welcome here, is what I got. And you need to go find somewhere else where you belong, is what I got from it. May not have been what he meant. I don't know. But I saw how everybody was like, oh my God. And then there were people that were like, he's going through some stuff. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, I get he's going through stuff. I'm going through shit too. You don't know the shit that I'm going through because I don't speak up openly about my shit that I'm going through. But I'm going through shit too. Doesn't give him a free pass to act like an ass. So I politely told them that I was no longer going to be a part of their group. This was part of the process of me building up, of being able to speak up for myself and being able to stand up for myself. So I told them that I was no longer going to be a part of their group, and I went on a mission to find another group. Finding AA groups is like dating. It sucks. There are some groups. I went to a veteran group where it was mostly guys, and that was awkward all in itself because I was the only female there, and they all wanted to rag on me because I was Air Force, and they were Army and Navy and Marines, and I'm like, y'all just mad because you guys weren't smart enough to get into the Air Force. That's what I always tell people whenever they want to try and get on me about being in the Air Force, because they call it the Chair Force. but realize you have to pass a certain test to be able to get that in there. So if you ain't smart enough, you ain't getting in. Sorry, period. End of story. And that's my go-to, because it's like, don't be jealous because you're not smart enough to pass the test. That's fine. I don't mind. But more or less, it wasn't the best. I found another one that I started going to, and it was actually pretty decent. I stayed in it for a good while, and I did find a sponsor. I finally found a sponsor that I could relate to. But as I was going through the steps, I realized that this sponsor, a lot of the sponsors are worn out and tired. They are closed off because of the fact that they've been, when you're asked to be a sponsor, you're more likely supposed to say yes and not supposed to say no, unless you have a very valid reason. You are supposed to take anybody and everybody, and I was noticing a pattern in the fact that you really weren't allowed to say no in the AA community. And I didn't like that. I was like, well, if I worked my way up there, then I would have to do whatever just for the sheer, pleasing other people. And I was like, that's not good. That's toxic right there in itself. So I started to see that it wasn't the place for me. I also started to realize in that time frame, hanging out with these girls, and one was really struggling with her sobriety, and she was dealing with a lot, and she was working through a lot of her shame. I believe personally, and this is my belief, that a lot of what our alcoholism is based around is alcoholism is about your I had a moment where my brain stopped functioning. Liver, I want to say kidneys too, but damn, I'm gonna look this one up because I'm like, hold on, my brain went zzz, but I'm gonna look it up because liver, there we go. Sorry, I had a whole mind melt right there. Okay, so why I bring this up is because we're trying to kill our liver. We're trying to drown our liver, and we're trying to suppress anger. So our liver, when I learned this in Kundalini Yoga, our liver is where we store a lot of our anger at. And so, like, there's different kind of moves and different kind of things that you can do with Kundalini Yoga in releasing that. And so I know this from my own experience from trying different Kundalini Yoga. And so I have someone that I can share on my page for that aspect. Okay. I got it, guys. You're making my head itch. I will share her. Okay. Don't let me forget. So, she was someone that she reminds me of an old teacher that I had in a past life. I know that. Like, that's why I was drawn to her. She may be an old teacher in a past life. I don't know. I wouldn't know that unless I actually met her. I love how I said until I finally meet her. Okay, cool. Let's see where that one goes. But as alcoholics, we are trying to drown our liver because subconsciously we are trying to kill that anger that we have been suppressing for so long in our liver. We're trying to drown it. We're trying to kill it out. There's so much anger that has not been let out. That anger that energy is still stuck there. It's still there and it needs to be released. And so there are different ways of doing it. So with that Kundalini yoga and everything, I learned that. And then but that was later on after AA, whenever I was trying to find other spiritual forms of releasing this stuff. In AA, I realized that a lot of these people were struggling still. Like, they were still white knuckling it a lot, even some of the old timers. And, you know, I realized, I was like, I can't be here. So what made me finally not stay in AA was that it was still very high school cliquey in some of the groups that I was going to. And I'm not saying all of them are like that. I'm saying I just gravitated towards those. That's all I'm saying. And I was trying my best to not be a part of the gossip and be a part of the fake niceness and stuff like that. I was trying to steer clear of that stuff. I also realized that in AA, it's anonymous because there's still some shame associated with admitting that you're an alcoholic. And I realized really quickly that in order for me to get better, I can't be ashamed of anything that I have done, said, my past, none of it. That's why I'm on here and I'm telling you my stories. Like, I'm talking about things that I'm not proud of, because if you hold on to that shame, it stays in your body. That energy will always stay in your body. If you feel it and you don't release it somehow, it's still there. And so for me, the best way is owning it. And also because of the fact that there are so many other people that are going through the exact same shit, and it's nice to know that you're not the only one. You are not the only one that struggles with this same shit. And so with AA, for me, I realized that people that go to AA, not all people, like, I'm not being black and white here. I realized that I could not be a part of AA because I just wasn't ashamed of it. There was still some shame with it, don't get me wrong, but I just wasn't going to be a part of that community and doing that stuff. And so for me, it wasn't going to work. But there are a lot of things in there that are actually very helpful in understanding. I have a book, and I recommend it to anybody if they don't want to do AA, but they still kind of want to follow the steps and take a spiritual approach. Let me grab it. Grab it. Where are you, book? Okay. Here it is. That's the drop stuff. Okay. Recovery, the Sacred Art, the 12 Steps as Spiritual Practice. Okay. So this one is taking the 12 steps and it's using them from AA, but more in a spiritual way. And so, you know, it's a great way to kind of like have both worlds. So that one is also a way. And then let me go grab the other book because it's also AA in a way. This is another one that I have that is Refuge Recovery. And this one is a Buddhist path to recovering from addiction. So both are really good books to, you know, if you don't find one way that works, try another way, you know. So that's how AA was for me. Those are why I did not go back to AA, and I found a different approach through spirituality, and I realized that I needed to forge my own path in figuring out why I went to those things. Like, why was I using drugs and alcohol and relationships and all of these things? Why was I using all of that? Well, because I had a bunch of repressed trauma that I didn't even remember. It was there, but it wasn't there. I was fighting to even see it. And the signs were all there, but I just wasn't actually seeing it and accepting it until my mental breakdown happened. And that's whenever, during that time, I was already out of treatment. And I was on papers with the court, and I'll have to tell that story here another time. I was already on papers with court to where I was going and getting drug tested twice a month with A&D court services for that. And so I was already set for 2 years of being on, piss testing. And so it was something that if I came up dirty, I could lose my kids. So therefore, gotta pee clean. So, I realized that I needed to get to the root of the problem as to why I was doing all of these things. Because honestly and truly, I was trying everything to suppress the memories. That's what it was for me. And not also the fact that, it was the fact that addiction, a lot of these brought out my true self in some ways, but not completely. Weed was great for my anxiety and my social anxiety. It helped me be more, people person. And alcohol let out my wild and free loving and fun loving kind of side. But with the drawbacks of my toxicity, with not being able to say no and, sleeping around and that kind of stuff. So it, pros and cons to everything, but, a lot of it, ecstasy was one that helped me feel feelings on a whole different level. That was a whole different, I was a big raver. So, it varies upon what drug it was, but it was all being used as a coping mechanism for something. So, all of that is kind of like my story of AA and why I don't go to meetings. I've met people that still go to meetings, and maybe I'd go to meetings. I don't feel like I really want to. So, if I was asked to speak at a meeting, I would not turn it down because, maybe somebody needs to hear it. But I don't feel the need to go to a meeting to keep myself sober. And I don't feel like I have to go to a meeting to help other people stay sober. I feel like I can meet more of that by coming on here and telling my story, so other people out there in the other communities that I am a part of, there's a lot of sober communities and stuff like that I'm a part of, that some people might follow me from, that I feel like I can reach more people by coming on here and sharing that than going into a meeting. So that's why. But I'm gonna go because we're already at 44 minutes and I still have a ton of other content to create and videos to do. So yeah, I gotta get going. Okay? Stay clean, stay sober, do what you gotta do. If you need to go to AA, go experience it yourself. My experience is not the same as somebody else's experience. Don't always take what other people say and use that. Go out and find your own experience. If it works for you, great. I am fucking happy for you because that's great. If that's what's going to work for you, that's going to work for you. You are different than what my story is. So if my words help, then great. If that's something that you experienced as well, then, let me know in the comments. Tell me about it. I'd like to know. Because, you know, I don't know if my experience was any different than other people's. And I'm not coming on here to be like, oh, AA is terrible, it's the worst. It's just, no, I'm not. That's not what I'm here for. I'm just here to, you know, share my story. And if other people connect with that story, if it helps other people, if, you know, it sparks something, if it resonates, whatever, great. Then I did my job. Then I'm doing what I need to do. Okay? I love you all, and stay safe, stay clean, stay sober. You've got this. It really is possible. Okay? Love you.